Hello and good evening. Welcome to leadership class. Let's go ahead and start the session. Okay, today's learning objectives are understanding the process that determines group performance, understanding how leaders can influence team performances and improve performance, understanding the different types of teams that are commonly used in organizations and implications for team leadership, understanding how leadership is shared in self-managed teams in conditions that make these teams more effective. So it's all about teamwork and how leadership can enhance and improve teamwork. So understanding the advantages of cross-functional teams and difficulties confronting leaders in these teams, and understanding procedures to facilitate team learning and build trust and cooperation, and finally understanding the primary leadership functions in decision groups, and understanding the procedures for leading successful teams. Okay, so basically it's all about teamwork. When you as a leader are starting to lead a team, it's really important for you to understand, and the whole work is a teamwork. It should be done together. So you as a leader, you need to be able to manage and run the team together, and for you to make sure that every single member of the team is understanding the objectives is really important. So the common characteristics of teams are, let me just increase it. Yeah. So first of all, we have autonomy to determine mission and objectives. So functional operating team, you have cross-functional team, you have self-managed operating team, and you have top executive team. So if you look at the characteristics, you see that when you have autonomy and like automatically everybody will understand what's their mission, you are looking at top executive team. So the higher the level of your team knowledge, responsibility, and position, the higher your autonomy and ability. Okay, I hope now it's better. Yeah, autonomy means doing it by yourself, doing it like automatically rather than just being told. So you gain autonomy when basically you're able to do it by yourself without necessarily detailed guidelines. So if you look at the first part, it's autonomy to determine mission and objectives, you see that the top executive team is able to achieve that, is able to understand the mission without much of the the leader's guidelines. So the leader, leading a top executive team is different from leading just a normal functional team. So if you look at that, and then as we move along, you see that the functional operating team is basically increasing. So if you look at autonomy to determine work procedures, you see that the cross-functional team and functional team, they have a higher need, and self-managed operating team is also high, and top executive is also high. So these are just different levels of characteristics for teams, and you see there are different type of leadership involved and required. So if you look at authority of the internal leader, you see that the functional operating team, they have a much higher authority. They have moderate to high cross-functional team. They have low self-managed part. They have high with regard to top executive team. So if you just look at the top executive team, it is the highest with regard to everything. And then if you look at self-managed operating team, you see that the the autonomy to determine work procedure is higher, and the authority for the internal leader is low, and then duration of existence for the team is high, stability of the membership is high, but diversity of members and functional background is low. So it's all the matter of comparison. If you just look at these characteristics and then you see if it should be high or low with regard to the type of leadership that you're providing, you will understand that for top executive teams, it's the highest and the most difficult type of leadership. So when you're leading a bunch of top executive managers, the requirement of these characteristics is at the highest level. But when you're looking at the functional or cross-functional team, you see they're either low or moderate, so they're not as high. And self-managed operating team is still very high, but they're just low in diversity and they're low in authority. So all that this chart is telling us is the nature of the team matters, and the nature of the team really defines your leadership to a great extent. So if you're dealing with a bunch of managers, it's different how you lead them rather than you're dealing with a bunch of just workers or just office workers. So types of teams: you have functional teams, you have cross-functional teams, you have self-managed teams, and we have virtual teams. Functional teams, basically, we are talking about those teams that are that is at the basic level. They do just some function with regard to what they're producing, the service or product that they produce. They just do that certain function that they are required to do. So cross-functional teams, though, they have a bunch of different jobs and objectives. So it's more diverse rather than functional. Self-managed teams, it's where they're moving up at the level of being executive managers or executive workers. So it's more their career is more advanced. They are at a higher level. So your leadership will become more complicated. Then we have virtual teams. Virtual teams are at the level that they are basically not much of exact detailed work being done together. So they're just a bunch of managers or top executives, but you're just grouping them together, coordinating the job that is going to be done. So your leadership will be very much complicated. Okay, Mr. Mohammed Aziz, do you want to say something? Yeah, okay. So, percentage of the companies that delegated a responsibility to self-managed teams. So you see that setting work schedules is like 69%, deal directly with external customers, you have set performance targets, you have conduct training, you have purchase equipment or services, deal with vendors or suppliers, prepare budgets, hire team members, and fire team members. So if you look at this chart, it's telling you the responsibility of a leader. This is based on a research done in 1992. So you see, setting work schedules is really important. It's pretty, going back to your question, Mr. Navabi, virtual teams is when you basically are trying to create teams. It's very much like networking and online groups. Where like nowadays, a lot of companies are utilizing it. That your subordinates are basically online, and via networking that you have internally in your company, you are managing them. You're telling them what to do and what not to do. But with regards to the type of job they do and the type of leadership that you provide, it's more complicated because you are actually just creating some groups of individuals, who are all of them generally managers or top executives, and you're just virtually telling them what to do, how to perform. It's more of consulting with them and try to help them understand the problems, come up with better solutions, but it's more of a networking type of leadership that you provide rather than just a normal, regular. We do, Mr. Ghaffari, that's very true. We have a virtual type of class, but for virtual management, it's very, very much common nowadays that the top managers and leaders are virtually connected via networking to their employees and basically top executives, and they're just providing leadership via networking. So going back to this page, you see that setting work schedules is pretty important. It takes up a big chunk of the responsibility of self-managed teams. You see, deal directly with customers is also, it's like from the top to the lowest. So as you can see, the setting performance targets is also important. You need to conduct training. So a lot of times leadership is about training, about teaching your employees and staff how to do a certain job, because a lot of times you expect your employees to perform according to your expectations, but many times they don't necessarily know how your expectation is should be done. So a lot of times you as a leader need to provide the training that you think is required. A lot of times you're dealing with something totally brand new. I mean, the staff are not familiar with the new type of process or the new type of goal that you're setting and the type of expectation that you're dealing with. So you need to teach them, you need to train them so that they are ready. So it's really important for a leader to provide the right training at the right time and to the right staff. So it's all about training, and when you train your staff, you get better results because you are bringing them onto the same picture that you are, and it's not just you and telling them something that they don't necessarily know exactly what you're talking about. So you see that purchasing equipment and services, a lot of times you need equipment. A lot of times you're providing a new product, but it takes new machines to produce that product. So you'll see that the machine you use, the technology is important. So as a leader, you need to provide that. You need to get the right material for your staff. You need to deal with vendors and suppliers. You need to prepare budgets. You need to hire team members and sometimes fire team members. So as you can see, these are not the most important, but these are definitely important. You want to hire the right people into your company. You don't want to just hire someone that you get the first applicant. You definitely want to hire those that have the the requirements for the job that you are expecting and you want your employees to deliver. So these are really important. Okay, and then you see the facilitating conditions for self-managed teams. So you want to facilitate. It's very important and very interesting that leadership nowadays is turning from what it used to be, turning from you doing all the job to basically facilitating. You are a facilitator now. You're not just the one who does everything anymore. You just facilitate what you want to be done. So you clearly define the objectives. That's really important. We talked about it a lot in detail in the past few sessions, that the leadership is all about the goals and objectives. So basically the leader is the one who is like the captain of the ship, standing on the deck looking onto the perspective and trying to see where you're headed. You are the one who is directing the ship where you're headed. So setting those goals and objectives and then defining them clearly is really important. You want to make sure every single member, every single employee in your company understands what you mean by those objectives, by those visions and missions that you write on the board of the company, and they definitely understand it, and they're working hard and every single day to come to the company to attain and achieve those goals. So for you and everyone in the company to be able to achieve the goals, first of all, they need to know what they are, and they need to understand it. Because a lot of time happens that these goals and objectives that are nicely framed on a wall of the companies are not necessarily known by everyone in the company. When you see a company like Apple, when you see a company like Microsoft or Google succeeding so well, and they're doing perfect in a market, in a world, they are just maximizing their potential, is just because every single part of the company, every single member of the company knows what their goal is, and basically they're working hard to achieve it, and they understand that goal. It's not just they know it or memorize it, but they understand it. So we have something from Mr. Mohammed. He's self-managed team, is self-organized, semi-autonomous, small group of employees with members that you meet, plan, manage their day-to-day activities and duties under reduced or non-supervision, also called self-directed team or self-managed natural work team. Yeah, thank you. Nice comment from Mr. Mohammed Aziz. So complex and meaningful tasks. So you need to facilitate those complex and complicated but meaningful tasks. So you as the leader are going to clarify. You are the one who clarifies the complicated situation. So when there is a complicated situation, and you as a leader understand it after the analysis, you should not take it for granted and just assume that everyone in the company will understand it the same way you do. Your job is to make sure everybody understands the way you understand it. So in order to get there, you need to basically clarify. You need to make every task meaningful to the employee. A lot of time it happens that there is a task or there is a new job you're expecting your employees to do, but they don't understand it, they don't like to do it, they try to resist to the change. But the best way for you to convince them to do that, to commit themselves to those tasks, is to make them meaningful. We human beings are logical creatures. We need to make sense out of everything. We need to understand why we're doing something. So as soon as you tell them, as soon as you make them understand and make it meaningful, those tasks, they commit themselves to it because they understand it fully and they want to make sure to do it properly. You want to create small size and stable type of membership. Your team members, basically when you're dealing with your staff and you're creating those teams, everybody is a team member. So when you feel that sense of belonging, when your employees feel that sense of belonging, when you create groups, small groups that they can work together, and they're stable, their members are stable, they're attached together, they create bonding, and they work together for long, that their work will be much better rather than just groups that you create once and they're changed next time. I mean, it's fine if you want to change the group and the type of group, but it's really important to commit the members and help them stay in their group because they'll get attached, they'll know each other, it's helping, and it's basically all about working together. So access to relevant information is also very important. We are living in information. Everything that we do today is based on the information we get, and the better information, the more up-to-date, the more accurate information you have makes your performance be better and more productive. I mean, now it's the information age, so it's really, really important to help your staff have access to the information that is up-to-date, that is correct, that is useful, and that is, important to the type of task that they're doing, to the service that they're offering. So substantial member influence over work processes. So as you can see, a lot of influence is there when you create those teams. Team members, they have influence on each other. And then we have appropriate recognition and rewards. So it's also important when you recognize when your team members or your staff or your employees do something wrong. You need to appreciate it. You need to acknowledge that you understood, that you realized that this team member did go beyond, above and beyond, to do something that they were expected to do. So it's when you appreciate it, when you make it clear that you understand when a team member does something and goes like beyond expectations, you understand it and you appreciate it and you acknowledge it. So that in itself gives them a lot of encouragement. Then you need to support them, and the support is not just by just saying nice words to your employees. You need to commit the managers as well. Because as a leader, you are dealing with top managers too, and those top managers are like your ways, your tools in order to get into the company's different sites and branches. So you need to get their commitment. So what you want to do, they will also commit themselves. So if you just single-handedly are doing something, and then your top managers are not complying and they're doing it differently, that could cause a lot of confusion. You want to make sure that your managers are on the same picture with you and they commit themselves as well. So if you commit yourself and then they end up not committing themselves, it's not good enough. It's not good enough, and it's really important to have them commit as well, because we all together are going to make a difference. It's not just you. Then we have competing external leader. So a lot of times just having an external leader who is competent, who is able to perform is also important. So sometimes you are the one or you need to involve one. And then members have a strong interpersonal skills. It's a lot of times about, interpersonal skills. It's all about relationships. It's all about communication. We talked about it in the previous sessions. It's important. It's important to communicate. It's important to get the message across. And your employees should be able to express themselves. You need to be able to express yourself. You as a manager or leader and your top management team and your employees should be able to communicate. Because without communication, we are talking about information. We are talking about getting the message across. So when there is a problem, what if you and your team members are not able to basically communicate properly so that the problem is properly addressed? So of course this is going to cause a problem. So what if there is a concern about some change that you're putting in place in your company, and your employees are not happy with it? They should be able to express that. What if they can't? So they don't commit themselves. They won't do it properly. So the whole process is going to be trouble. We have a comment from Mr. Miyako. If top management does not support you, as a leader, you have to do your best to win the minds and hearts of them, to change the attitude towards you, which is not easy work. That's very true. It's very true. It's all about having everyone on the same page. Because if you're just a telling leader, if you're just a leader who forces and just authoritatively tells everyone what he thinks is good and wants, it could work temporarily, but in the long run, you don't want that. In the long run, you want to make sure that every single team member is able to understand what you're trying to get, what you're trying to attain. So if just by yourself, if you're just telling them what you want them to do and they don't understand it, it's not necessarily going to work. So very true, very nice comment, thank you. So that's for this page, and then we go to the next one. So what are the determinants of team performance? If you're talking about team performance, if you're talking about working as a team, you're talking about you as a leader are supposed to help your staff to work as a team, to understand the teamwork and perform under those expected performances. So what do we mean by basically team performance? What are the determinants? What are the important factors when it comes to teamwork? So let's just discuss that. You need to commit to shared objectives. This is the most important. I just talked about it in the previous slide, that when it comes to the work as a team, you need to define, as a leader, you need to define the goals and objectives. So when you define them, just defining them is not good enough. As I mentioned, you need to basically clarify. Just defining doesn't mean everybody is going to understand, because what you understand as a leader after, let's say, your experience or exposure, doesn't mean that every single person in the company with different exposures, with different background, with different experience will get the same definition and understanding that you get. So the way you make sure that they understand is by collective efficacy. We'll get it in the next few minutes if you bear with me, Mr. Mohammed. You're at the commitment right now. So yes, you want their commitment to those shared goals when they understand. And then member skills and role clarity. So it's great that when you get their commitment, it's great when you help them understand their goals, but definitely what is really important is to have the right skills. A lot of times you see employees that are at positions that they shouldn't be because they don't have the right skills. They are not just ready for that position yet. So it's important for you as a leader to make sure that people you choose for certain roles, they are the right people for that position. So just defining in itself sometimes is not good enough. You want to make sure, and Mr. Nick Ford, if you want to say something, otherwise please, yes, mute your microphone. So yes, we were talking about clarity and then skills. So they need to have the right skills, and at the same time, their role, their job description should be clarified. Then we have internal organization and coordination. So the team members, the team should be internally organized, and at the same time, they should coordinate with each other. They should cooperate. They should communicate. And it should be internally and externally. What that means is, like, different departments should communicate with each other as two separate external departments, and inside those departments, communication should be also done. Resources and political support. Political support is more of the management, top management, the leaders' support, involvement. A lot of times you're just putting out a goal, and then because the other managers or top managers are not involved or committed, a lot of times it's difficult to attain those goals. So it's important that you get their commitment as well, and that's the political support, and then providing the resources that they would need. So mutual trust and cooperation. It's all about trust. You know, if you are not trusting your employees and they're not trusting you, you are missing a big chunk of the puzzle. It's not that you just tell your staff to do something and they'll do it. It's about trust. It's about understanding each other. And then collective efficacy and potency is when everybody is efficient. Collective efficacy is talking about the concept of efficiency. You know, as Worldwide Science, we do offer a course called Service Quality Management, and we talk about total quality management and a lot of concepts. Some of you have attended those classes, or some of you that you haven't yet, you probably take the next courses in the upcoming semesters. But what it is all about is about efficiency. You want to make sure that you're efficient. But efficiency has different levels. One level is basically just individual efficiency, and one is as a whole you have efficiency. So when you say collective efficacy, you're talking about the total, altogether efficient teamwork. So if you have individuals that are efficient, but as a group they're not efficient, they're missing the big part. Because when you're working as a team, the whole performance of the team is gauged and measured. It's not just the individual. You might have great individuals with great skills, but in a teamwork, they don't do a good job. It could be because of a lot of different reasons, but for whatever reason it is, that's a problem, you know. You cannot just say because my team members individually, they're great, I don't mind when they don't work together as a team. That's what matters most, you know, your team members, your staff, being able to perform and do what they're required to do. So that's what we call collective efficacy. And political support that I just explained as the previous point, bullet point, is basically the top management and top executives' involvement and support and cooperation. So politically means that they also are involved and they are part of those teams and they give what is needed, and it's not just you as a leader telling everyone, and even though they have to say yes probably to the leader of the company, but the political support is their mind and their support with regard to what they do, to the schedules and the policies they provide is also there. So it's more of commitment from the top management. Okay, key performance determinants. So we see the behavior and we see the variable. So we have visioning, expressing confidence, celebrating progress. These are all the characteristics in the different individual characteristics that are important for the leader to have, and we see how they will be measured. Mutual trust and cooperation example. So Ms. Oria, mutual trust and cooperation is, let's say, when you expect your employees to do something, and you as a leader come up with a new policy. So the trust and cooperation is that you as a leader trust your employees that they will perform accordingly. But the cooperation part is you give them the right training, you're there for them when they are challenged and puzzled because you're producing and introducing something new to the company. So it's definitely something expected that they'll be confused a lot of times. They need some support. So you should be there. But at the same time, you trust it. You're not just a negative leader who is just looking for troubles to question them all the time. So you're supporting them, but at the same time, you give them trust and your support. And at the same time, you cooperate. So on the other side, your employees, when they see the support, when they see that the resources they need is provided to them, so they feel more comfortable cooperating with you. So you get it in return. What you get is basically great job, great teamwork, because people, the staff of your company understand you care. It's not just a matter of new policy. It's a matter of efficiency. It's a matter of working the job better, do the job better. It's a matter of getting the job done. So everybody as a team, they cooperate. And they trust each other because they know when they do something, it's because of the benefit of the company. It's not that your self-benefit is involved, and that's why you're, imposing that rule. Okay. You're welcome. So visioning, expressing confidence, and celebrating progress is like task commitment, collective efficacy. So those factors we just talked about, you see how they be projected with the behaviors that you show. So when you show there's a vision, that you know the vision of the company, you express it, and you celebrate the progress, you're basically tapping and addressing task commitment, collective efficacy we just talked about. When you are involving members in making decisions, when you're leading meetings to make decisions, you are basically creating task commitment, quality of performance strategy. When you're recruiting and selecting competing team members, your members' skill and collective efficacy is addressed. So you probably, the previous part that I was just explaining, you were trying to understand how it should be done. I mean, you're looking for something practical that you can really do it today at your company. So that's how you do it. When you want to involve your team members, when you involve your team members, you're targeting what we just talked about. When you recruit the right people with the skills you're taking care of the skills that I just talked about. Make sure that everybody at their position have the right skill set that is required. So when you plan and organize team activities and projects, you're addressing the efficacy and internal coordination, collective efficacy. When you facilitate team learning, you adapt to change, the quality performance strategies is addressed, and collective efficacy is addressed. Team building and constructive resolution of conflict. When you create that team building spirit, when you constructively resolve the problem, you are creating that mutual trust and cooperation. And then when you do networking and monitoring and scanning of the external environment, you adapt to change, external coordination, and quality performance strategy. And finally, when you are doing representing and promoting and lobbying, negotiating, the resources and political support, external coordination. So looking at this page, you'll see that what we just talked about as what you need to do as a leader is basically done by everyday practice of the leader of the company. So you're doing team building, you're constructing team resolutions of problems every single day. You're networking, you're communicating, you're monitoring, you're representing and promoting and lobbying and negotiating. So you see that every single task we do every day targets one of those characteristics that we talked about in the previous slide in order to perform as an efficient leader and have an efficient team of the staff. Okay? So let's go to the next slide. So skills required for leading cross-functional projects. What are the skills you require as a leader? You have to need the technical expertise. The leader must be able to communicate about technical matters. So if you are not able to communicate via technical tools, you are missing something big. And we're talking about technology as an important part of today's world. So as a leader, you need to be tech savvy. So project management skills. The leader must be able to plan and organize the projects and activities. You need to select the qualified members and handle budgeting and financial responsibilities. And interpersonal skills. The leader must be able to understand needs and values of the team members, influence them, resolve conflicts, and build cohesiveness. By cohesiveness, we're talking about harmony. They should be in line. They should be on the same page. They should be related, So cohesiveness is when every single member in a company is kind of similar with regard to their objectives, with regard to what they do and their goals, then interpersonal skills, the leader must be able to understand the needs and values of team members, influence them, resolve, we just talked about it. The cognitive skills, the leader must be able to solve complex problems that requires creativity and system thinking. So you must understand how different functions are relevant to success in the project. So this is important. This is the key. Cognitive, as we talked about, is the part that you recognize, you understand, you analyze. Cognitive is regarding the logical side. So this is one of the key points in leadership. Why? Because as a leader, it's not a clear-cut, straight problem that you just refer to the book that you studied back in college and you fix the problem. You will face, as a leader, you will face very, very complex, difficult problems and issues every day. So how do you solve it? I mean, there's no book. You cannot just Google the problem and then find some answer and use it. When it comes to this case, you need to analyze. You need to be able to strategically and logically think the matter over. You need to study it, you need to analyze it, put it in the chunk sizes, and then understand it. And then, according to your experience, to your previous exposure, you're able to put that problem in the right place in the system, because you are, yes, it is critical thinking, and you're able to know what are the related problems to that problem. Because a lot of times, one single problem is not just a cause. It could be a result of a bunch of other problems that you as a leader are supposed to find out and then put it in the right place and fix it. Yes, political skill, Mr. Mohammed, is the next one. I'm talking about cognitive skill. So right after cognitive skill, when I'm done, I'll take care of it. So you're one step ahead of me. Please just bear with me for a moment. So yes, I was talking about cognitive skills and how you as a leader are supposed to understand the problems where they are and what other problems are related to them, and then fix them accordingly. So it's important for you to be able to analyze, logically, put that into small chunk sizes. And yes, cognitive is the mental process of learning. That's true. So then you'll be able to perform. So now your question, Mr. Mohammed, is regarding political skills. Is the leader must be able to develop conditions and gain resources, assistance, and approval from top management and other relevant parties. Okay. The political support we talked about in political skills is involving the managers. So let's say you're a leader of a company, and you think a new policy should be put in place that everyone who is basically facing a problem with the new technology that you just bought, the new machine, should definitely communicate it immediately to the let's say the supervisor. The supervisor should analyze the problem and then communicate the results to the higher manager, and that goes all the way up. Okay, that's a great idea. That's wonderful. But how would you make it practical? I mean, how would you politically get the support? Is by involving the managers. When you make such a decision, you need to bring them on so that they know that their decision is also important and their commitment is important. Because if it is just a task, they'll address it like that. They won't necessarily do what you basically and initially had in mind. They'll just write a report and they don't necessarily do it properly. But when you sit with them and say, hey, see, this will help us, analyze the problem much better because everybody's involved, everybody's ideas is reported, and when you guys tell me what's the problem, we can make a better decision. So you see how involving them in this in this new decision policy. It will make a huge change because when they know that their commitment is important and they know they got to commit themselves, and it's not just because it's a new policy, it's because you're trying to fix the problems that you face every day, they'll make sure to do it. So some tactics of political skills are basically the support and at the same time commitment. I mean, the understanding is not that you as a leader are just taking the company where you want and you're doing it all on your shoulders. You're putting all the problems on your shoulder and carrying it yourself. That's not leadership. That's wrong. You need to bring on as many as possible on board so everybody together is moving forward and moving the company. So political skills are really important. When you want to negotiate a problem of change, when you want to make sure everybody is supporting the idea, when you want to make sure everybody's going to do it, you got to do it now. Okay, leadership in different types of teams, cross-functional. So you have the envisioning. You talked about envisioning. You want to articulate a strategic objective or vision that inspires commitment by team members. So we had talked about this. We know that when you are the leader, you got to have a vision. You got to see what's coming forth and what's coming forward. And so basically, you got a vision, and you got to envision that. You got to bring that up. You got to inspire your staff and employees. So you got to help the team understand and improve their assumptions and mental model regarding their relationships among past variables. So when you have a vision and you help the employees understand it also and improve their assumptions, their mental model, that really helps in order to bring everybody on the same page. And you suggest creative ideas and encouraging the team to consider innovative performance strategies. So this means no problem. Okay. So we were suggesting when you are a leader, you are coming up with creative ideas. You're coming up with encouragement to the team. So envisioning is not just having a vision. It is helping your team members, your staff, understand the vision and give them a vision as well. You know. So there was this saying like for Apollo 13, which was a shuttle they sent it to space back in the day. There was this saying said by the leader of the team that he said that the reason we were successful was because every single person on the team had the same vision. Even the janitor, when they asked the janitor, what do you do in this company? The janitor said, I'm helping the team to send the shuttle to the space and that to be a successful project. So that janitor didn't look at his job as just a janitor, you know. He looked at his job as part of a team that is going to achieve a goal. So no matter what exactly you do in the company, you're helping the company to achieve the goal they have eventually. It's not just your single job. Your single job is part of a bigger scale of the company that together is going to attain the goal. So you see, when you have a vision, when you bring on board every single member of the company at different levels, with different assignments, you are getting a commitment to a goal that you want to attain, and you'll attain it. So then you organize, you plan and schedule team activities to achieve coordination and meet project deadlines. So meeting deadlines is a big thing also. So you plan, you schedule, but if you don't meet the deadlines, you're nowhere. You got to make sure that you coordinate, you work together, and meet deadlines. You help the team establish standards and methods of assessing progress and performance. And then you arrange and conduct meetings to solve problems and make decisions in a systematic order. And then you do social integrating. You encourage mutual trust, acceptance, and cooperation among team members. And you facilitate open communication, equal participation, and tolerance of dissenting views. And finally, mediating conflicts among members and helping them find integrative solutions. So all of these, the social integrating is very important. It's all about communication. You encourage the trust, you talked about it, but you get their acceptance. You know, the team members, the staff should accept you, should accept your policies, should accept your vision and goals you set for them. So that acceptance means they say yes, and then they strive for it. It's not just because they know that's what you want them to do. It's because they know that's what is needed to be done in order for the company to succeed, and that makes a huge difference because they know the reason behind it. I'm not saying that when you make like a decision in the engineering department and it's very technical, you gotta make everyone, even the janitor, understand that, because that's impossible. But what I'm saying is the big picture should be shared, and those changes with regard to the level of skills required should be explained. So if you only need just a little bit of explanation, but that helps you to understand your part of commitment to that change, you got to do it. So it's not that you need to explain it fully to everyone, but you need to explain it to some extent so they know that part of the job that has changed for them, for their daily task, is because of achieving this goal. So you see the difference? It's not that you're telling them exactly what you're doing, or you're not telling them exactly why the change happened, like the details, but you're giving them some idea why something changed. And that makes a huge difference. And then you have external spanning. You have monitoring external environment, teams to identify client needs, emerging problems, and political process. So you have a team out there just looking for problems that are coming your way. You're trying to understand what's happening outside in the environment to see those effects on your end. And then you promote a favorable image of team among outsiders. So it's not just team building inside, but at the same time, the outsiders should also have a good image of your team. So it's also promoting your team, because when people think good stuff about you, that's going to help your performance as well. So please keep that in mind as well. Then you have influencing people outside. We talked about it. So before we move forward, I want to pose a question to everyone. I want some answers. How do you think you can help your staff understand the vision of the company? How have you done it so far? How can you do it differently? Okay, so everyone, please listen. I want to hear from you, according to what you discussed. So how do you think you can help your staff, your company team members, understand the vision of the company? How have you been doing it so far? And after what we discussed, how could you do it different? So take a moment answer this question. I want your practical answers. I want your answers according to your experience. I give you a couple minutes to just think about it and write your answers. Before we move forward, I want you to give me some responses, and I want to know everybody's following me because I've been talking, and I want to hear from you back. So please give me some answers. If you want to take a couple minutes and think and then write, or you can also raise your hand and then you can also explain it to the class. You can speak up. So please go ahead. Any questions about the question I asked? Does everybody understand it? Does everybody understand the question that I just wrote? Okay, very good. So please go ahead. Okay, so uh, to understand the meaning of our vision, you should explain it clearly. Where you want to go and want to reach a certain period of time. It can be explained in workshops and the manual of the company. Learn our vision to our staff. You kick off your vision to your staff, explaining it to them like where you want to be in 2 years. Okay. You have made like explaining it, your vision, preparing them. The activity plan and organizing the activity. Okay. From application career, I have called on my top managers and talked to them about our company's goals and objectives and strategies we need to follow to reach our goals, achieve the results, and achieve the vision. Important to ensure company goals, achieve the vision. Let them ask if they have any questions following this, a follow-up checklist with tasks assigned to each top manager. Be sure his subordinates 5 to 10 approaches. How can you move ahead and achieve goals, reach our vision? The quarterly meeting is held in which leadership, top managers, and their subordinates participate in vision and manager decisions. Of course. Um, 1,000 steps. That's one part. The leader strives to keep staff engaged. Yeah, very good. Very good so far. Basically, as we discussed, it's important to communicate it. It's important to help them understand. Staff should be aware about the goal and objectives of the organization, and they will be able to prefer it. Yeah. So, yeah, very good. So, yeah, that's about it. That's good. So, procedures for facilitating team learning. Some of you talked about learning. So, how do you facilitate team learning? Barry also says, to me, understand our stuff. First, conducting meeting is very important. Clear vision, communication should be according to the policy of the organization. So, after activity reviews, near the beginning, make a self-critique that acknowledges shortcomings. So, when you want to facilitate the learning at the beginning, tell them about shortcomings. Tell them what's missing. Tell them what is the problem. Then encourage feedback from others and model non-defensive acceptance. Encourage acceptance. Encourage rather than just defending yourself, try to do it right. You know, that attitude is much better. If I, as a team member, doesn't matter if I'm the manager, the leader, or just a normal staff, if I, as a team member, have this attitude of accepting what's wrong, and accepting my mistakes, and trying to fix it, rather than defend myself that why I make that mistake, then we can move forward. Because a lot of times, it's not the matter of whether I'm saying that I didn't make that mistake. A lot of times, you're just trying to defend yourself. You're just trying to say, hey, I made that mistake because I'm going to say that you are not getting it. No matter if you're the manager, or if you're the leader, or if you're just a regular staff. And that's not the type of behavior that you should be promoting. You should be promoting the type of behavior when there is a mistake, you acknowledge the mistake, and you try to fix it. So you got to promote it. Active members to identify effective and ineffective aspects of team performance. You need to work as a team. What is a good team performance? What is bad team performance? You encourage members to examine how group processes affect the team performance. You got to do that also. So we have some more feedback. Team learning is done after each assessment by tracing the staff, the challenge, prepare them for the vision, take responsibility, assignment works within staff, and follow-up motivation, giving them credit for what they help in team learning and development. Okay. So that was it. And then ask members to identify effective and ineffective. We just talked about it. Encourage members to examine how group processes affect the team performance. So team performance is important. Team performance is the key for you to be successful. Then we move forward. Procedures for facilitating team learning. You keep the discussion focused on behaviors rather than individuals. This is a very, very important. This is like extremely important. Interestingly, a lot of managers, a lot of important executive people in companies don't understand it, and that's why they miss it. It's not about the individual. It's going back to what I just said. It's not about why you made that mistake. It's not about you. It's about the problem and the behavior. When you have a behavior that is wrong and it causes problems, that is going to cause a problem. So instead of addressing you, I should address your behavior. The way you do it, what you did wrong, is because of that behavior. So as soon as I just address that behavior, then you should be fine. Then, if necessary, provide your own assessment of team performance. So, also, give them some assessment, give them some measurement of their performance. Tell them how you measure their performance. I mean, you're acknowledging that they're doing a good job and everything, but at the same time, be realistic, be factual about their performance. Recognize improvement. Tell them, okay, you improved on these parts. And then ask members for suggestions on how to improve. Get their ideas. That's feedback. That's involving them. That's bringing them on board. Propose improvements not already included in the team suggestions. When you hear their suggestions, accept it. Those that are good, take it. But at the same time, give them more suggestions. So you are basically communicating. You're basically asking them what you think is good and try to, brainstorm in a sense. So guidelines for team building. Guidelines for team building. You emphasize on common interests and values. Okay, This is a key because a lot of people, when it comes to team building, they think, okay, I do my job right, I'm part of a team, I just do my job, and that's it. It's not it. In team building, in team efforts, you have a common interest. So every single member on the team is working on one same goal. So you just take part of that task that should be done. So you take part of it, and everybody takes a chunk size of it, and together you get it done. But you need to understand it. Okay? It's not that I was told to do this little, and I just don't want to do something extra. The teamwork is to get the job done together. That's the mindset you want to incorporate in the minds of your staff. You want to make them understand that it's not that, okay, because I told you to do this exactly, you just do it exactly. You get the job done. That's what I need you to do. So if it takes extra effort, you're going to do it. Any means the process team formation starts with forming, storming, norming, and performing comes. Yeah, that's correct, Ms. Miyako. That's very, very true. It's a nice comment. Thank you. So use ceremonies and rituals. Use related stories. Use related stuff that people value and like. Use symbols to develop identification with the group. Encourage and facilitate social interaction. So these are all important. These are all guidelines for team building. So tell people about the group activities and the achievements. Thank you. And then conduct process analysis sessions. Conduct alignment sessions. Increase the incentive for mutual cooperation. So all these, you can see that it's all about communication with your team members. It's all about analyzing and getting some results, and then getting some feedback on those results. Conduct some sessions, increase incentives. You know, you want to make a decision in the group. So it's all about the group size. It's all about status differential, cohesiveness, member diversity, emotional maturity, physical environment, communication, technology. So all you can see here is all about dimensions of your group. You gotta have harmonious group size. You gotta have groups that are similar. I mean, the way they are designed. You know, they should be diversified. They should be matured. So leadership functions in meetings. You see the process structuring, and then the guidance and sequence discussions stimulate communication, increase information exchange. So you see the task, and then you see the objective. Clarifying communication in order to increase comprehension and understanding. Summarize. Check on understanding and assess progress. Consensus testing is for you to be able to check on agreement. And group maintenance function. That's true with the emotional maturity is what we need in a lot of areas, and a lot of problems because of emotional immaturity. We see a manager or a boss or a CEO is emotional, and his emotion is causing the problem, not necessarily their staff. And it's terrible. It's very important, and it's terrible that they don't get it. Then we talk about gatekeeping, increasing the equalized participation, harmonizing, reducing tension and hostility, supporting, prevent withdrawal, reduce tension, standard setting, regulate behavior, process analyzing, discovering, resolve, process problems. All these are important. All these are part of the job you gotta do. And then you can see here comparison of the two viewpoints in leadership. We have the basis for comparison, leader-centered and group-centered. We talked about the best type for group and team membership is group-centered. When you share by leader and group, when you invest in a group, when you try to de-emphasize, means that everybody is involved. You try to do it as a collective entity. You share it by the leader and group, and you emphasize and you observe goals by the leader, and you encourage and discuss. When you look at this, when you see the responsibility to control the position, the part of the perception of growth, task-oriented functions, the group maintenance, the social emotional process and expression of needs, you see two different perspectives, two different types and ways and methods and approaches when it comes to decisions. So on the group center, which I think is the best one, is the focus on the group rather than the leader. So instead of just putting someone responsible for the problems or the success of the company, you are basically saying that everybody is responsible. Everybody's part of this game. So that way you will have a better understanding. And then we have guidelines for leading meetings. We have informing people about necessary preparation. So we talked about this meeting. Some of you suggested that. So it's good to tell them in advance so that they can prepare. Something from although they agree with more group way of doing decisions still is very time consuming, needs to be considered. Yes, that's true, Mr. Miyaho. And you need to understand that when we talk about the group center, it means that you as the leader have already done the job, or your job, of putting the team together and making it ready. You're not saying that you just put them in bunches of groups and then expect them to act like a group. You're talking that you as a leader have prepared them to work as a team. So it means a lot, because just grouping people will not give them a group of spirit. That helps, that's part of it, but as we discussed, you need to do a lot of things. You need to create a lot of atmosphere changes. You need to involve them, and you need to do a lot of other things that they all together will lead you there. So in a sense, your work is not less. That's a wrong inception. People think that if you do a job as a group, the leader does less. I would say your job would be more, because for you to facilitate, it takes a lot more rather than just do it. Because when you just do it and have everybody follow you, it's much easier. But when you want to everyone be part of it, you as a facilitator, you need to put in way more effort, but the result you get is much better. You know? So, does everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me? Can you just confirm yes, yes, yes? Or those can. Okay. So, okay, yes, that's true. So when you just do it, a lot of times, and you or the group that you create is not a group mindset. You have to redo a lot of things. So that's important. That's important to understand. I don't understand your question, Mr. Faisal. What do you mean? Is it any meeting or a special kind? What meeting? What are you talking about? You mean the guidelines for leading meetings? Oh, This means when you put meetings, we talked about group work. We said that when you have a team-oriented or team-centered type of leadership, you need to have meetings, right? So for your meetings, this is the guideline. Yeah, staff meetings, when you're meeting with your staff, or your managers, or whatever meeting you have in your company, you need to have them prepared. You need to share the essential information with the group. Describe the problem without implying the cause or solution. It's very important for us as the leaders to, when you explain something, just explain it as it is. Rather than just saying, okay, this is the problem and it's because. When you're explaining the problem, just explain the problem. When you're explaining the solution, just explain the solution. Help them understand. Sometimes you just want to tell them the problem and then get their response without any answer. So that's important. And then allow ample time for idea generation. A lot of times, it's really bad, but it's happening all the time. That you see a lot of leaders or managers, when they're running meetings, when people want to express their ideas, they say, okay, they're out of time. And they don't let people share. I mean, that's the most, if there's any benefit from those meetings, is that benefit of people sharing their ideas. And when you say, okay, we are out of time for your ideas, you're in a sense saying that, okay, we just wasted our time for another useless meeting. Because your meeting is just for the purpose of getting some solution. I mean, they're giving you their ideas. That could be a solution of all times. That could be something that you could use and make you successful to solve the problem. So you never say, okay, we are out of time. Just keep your questions or your comments for later. I mean, that's not a good idea. I mean, that's not why you run a meeting. You got to make sure everybody's expressing themselves, everybody's sharing their concerns. If you're ever putting a meeting. Otherwise, why would you just put a meeting? Just to tell them something? I mean, that's not, you could just write a letter to them if you're not getting their feedback. Yeah, and describe the problem without implying the cause or solution means that when you are telling the problem, don't explain the result yet. Just explain the problem and then hear their feedback and then express your side of it. Then say, okay, I think it's because of this. Not just put it all together and tell them, okay, because of this problem it happened and so on and so forth. Explain everything separately. And separate the idea generation from idea evaluation. So this is also important. A lot of times people in the meeting think if they express themselves means that they would be like criticized right away, but it's not true. You want to express yourself, and expressing yourself doesn't mean necessarily to be evaluated. I mean, you will be evaluated eventually, but it's good to just express yourself. You know? Encourage and facilitate participation. Make sure everybody participates. Encourage positive restatement of an idea building. A lot of times when you express yourself, you're not quite there yet. I mean, you might come up with some idea, but it's not fully developed. Okay, you say, okay, can you restate it for me? Can you explain it better, or help the staff come up with better explanation? It might be a great idea, but not just expressed properly. So make sure you get the idea, not just the words. I mean, a lot of times it's not the matter of words, it's a matter of understanding exactly what the staff member meant, you know. So it was the skills of leading. Yes, that's a great idea, Mr. Miyako. A lot of times people express themselves and it's going to the wrong direction. So you are the facilitator. As the leader, you talked about it. You should bring it on to the right direction again. But it doesn't mean that stop them from expressing themselves, because successful companies started like that. You know, we just listened to Steve Jobs' speech last week, and if you remember, he said he was fired by Apple. He was fired. You know, he was the one who made
company, Apple, known to everyone. And can you imagine he was fired from that company before? Yes, he was. And what if he wouldn't return? What if he wouldn't express himself? What if he wouldn't come and change everything? I mean, Apple would not be what it is right now. So it's important to get the feedback from your employees, from your staff. Use systematic procedures for solution and evaluation. Encourage members to look for an integrated solution. Yeah, everybody could be a genius. I mean, we all have that genius part of us inside. It's just we need to flourish it. We need to be at the right place at the right time. That's very true. So encourage members and encourage efforts to reach consensus. So finally, at the end of the meeting, it's good to get some consensus. Good to get some agreement, somewhere everybody is on the same page. And clarify responsibilities and how to implement the ideas. So basically, that's about it for this session. First of all, is there any questions or comments? Any questions, any comments before we end the session? Okay, so I take it as a no. Oh, you're welcome. So just wanted to highlight again, when it comes to leadership, this is a wrong perception thinking that as a leader, you will make decisions and people just do it. It might have been the case before, but it's not the case right now. And companies that just do it that way, they will expire. They cannot survive. Because now companies, the leadership of today is basically teamwork, working together, and everybody being on the same page, everybody being a leader, everybody participating. So if you still are running your company, if you're still leading, just telling people what to do and then deciding for them, I mean, you either have to change, or if you don't, your company is going to be gone in the next year or so. So it's really important to understand leadership is not about just leading by yourself. It's leading as a group, leading together, bringing on every single member of the team, and create that team spirit and work. It depends. It depends on what Mr. Zama. It depends on the situation, on how you're gonna do it, but it's not dependent on if you're gonna do it. I mean, you gotta do it as a team, but how you do it is different. But it's not that if you do it is different. You gotta do it as a team, but you do it differently according to different situations. So the concept of leadership, we are almost ending this course of leadership. So it's really important to understand the concept, the basic, the juice of leadership, which is working together. So if you're ending with any phrase, this session is just leadership is working together. So if there's no question, we can just finish this session. Thank you so much for attending the class. I'll see you next week. And no, we have another session. Next session will be probably our last session. I think we have covered those couple sessions that we missed. We have another session, or maybe one extra session after that, maybe another 2 sessions from now. So yeah, I'll talk to the admin. Thank you so much. Yes, I'll email you the slides today. Yeah, sure. Yes, I did receive your assignment, Mr. Kakar. You can start sending your assignments anytime. Sure. Thank you, everyone. You have a nice week, and see you next week.